let's go back actually to our very first investment property that we bought. Again, we bought our primary home in 2017, and then we bought our true first traditional investment property in 2019. So as the spouse, like tell me your side of the story, because I'm actually genuinely curious. I know my side of the story, but I'm actually curious about your side of the story, how it all happened.
Yeah, it's a great question. So Logan had been studying real estate for a long time prior to us actually pulling the trigger to say yes to our first investment. We had talked a lot about it. We communicated a lot about it. I think the biggest takeaway for me in the initial days was him telling me and involving me in the beginning, and not just one day saying, hey, I got a house under contract, we're going to buy it. I was part of the journey of education and learning all the way up until that first time that we got a house under contract. There were a ton of limiting beliefs that hit my radar as we got closer and closer to actually investing. Little story, I was actually pregnant with Lainey when all of this happened. And initially we'd put a couple offers in and everything was declined initially. Everybody said,
they rejected us.
Nope.
Why did they reject us?
And
Do they know who we
I
are?
think it was 2 weeks after Lainey was born. We got a call from our real estate agent, and he said
Jesse
Lagos. He said they want to talk. They'll accept. I don't remember the amount. They'll accept your offer.
$240,000.
We have a 2-week-old. Shoot. The timing was like obviously not ideal. I don't think any timing is ever ideal, but it was an adrenaline rush to not only just have a newborn and being, adding another whole life to our radar, but also becoming a landlord. Like, woo! Oh man, I have to manage people. I have to, be called in the middle of the night to deal with all of the management side of things.
Those pesky toilets, they always call you in the middle of the night.
It was a lot to take on. So I think that it was scary. It was terrifying. I wanted to say no as well.
Yeah. Why didn't you say no?
Because I'm on your team.
Oh.
And I think it actually empowers us to work better when we work together.
Yeah. But really, why, we're on the same team, but why did you actually go with this idea of investing?
Yeah, great question.
Actually, let's go back a little bit, because I think it's important to understand the whole situation. So when we invested our first property, we dropped $65,000. We took that money out of our bank account and we put it into this deal, because we bought this home through a bank, right? Or I should say we financed it through a bank, and they wanted 20. I think we actually put down 25% down. And so at that point it was like 65. I think it was actually $66,000 to the T, because I have that number somewhere, right? And so why did you say, Logan, this is a great idea. We have a 2-week-old. We have all these new expenses with having a baby. Now we're going to take $66,000 out of our bank account and put it on this property, right? That we didn't live in, by the way. It was a true investment property. Why?
Because the potential.
What potential?
The potential of passive income for years down the road, generational wealth, and just true freedom. Not being tied to that number in the bank account.
So you value that passive income. How much money did that property make every single month?
I think it was like $700. Right,
$700, right? So I made $700 of cash flow every single month, and you preferred $700 of cash flow rather than $66,000 in the bank.
Yes.
For most people, they're not going to understand that difference. That doesn't make sense. I don't want $700. I want $66,000, right? Why? What did that $700 represent to you?
Security. Honestly, $66,000 in the bank is it's terrifying. It's like, what are we gonna do with it?
Yeah.
Where are we gonna put it? And the fact that we put it into a house
groceries
that actually gave me money every single month, I was like, oh, this is cool. How do we do this again?
Yeah. I think that's the difference between playing the short-term games, like $66,000. Look at all the things we could buy. We could go buy new cars. We could buy a house for ourselves. We could buy lots of groceries. We could buy lots of sushi, right? We go on lots of trips. So you talked about security, but you also said before I rudely interrupted you, talked about freedom. What did that actually mean when you said that $700 represented freedom, where $66,000 seemed scary?
Yeah. So I think in the beginning days, we talked a lot about short-term sacrifice for long-term gain, and understanding that living below our means, crunching pennies, like paying attention to every little detail, allowed us to see the potential of success in the future. And when I say success, I actually mean financial freedom. So we knew from the gates we had tracked expenses for a very long time, because it's important to know how much it costs for us to live. So we tracked our expenses for a long time. We figured out basically what our financial freedom number was. What number passively do we need to actually have come in every single month in order to live financially free?
Yeah.
To have our bases covered.
And what was that number? Do you remember?
I don't.
Because it changed. That's why she doesn't know, right? You look at her like, you're silly. Why don't you know that number? It changes, right? It changed because what we did, we actually did it the real way. We didn't just pick an arbitrary number, right?
Yeah.
Tell people what we did, because I think this is actually really important. So if you guys are listening, listen hard, right? Because this is actually the key to knowing what you want, is to have clarity on why you're doing what you're doing.
So for at least 18 months prior to even buying this house, we sat down every single Sunday and went through every single credit card, every single bank account, every single transaction that passed through anything that had our name on it, and we tracked it. So
we still do that, by the way.
We still do that.
Yeah.
And it's important because it does change. Sometimes there's months where big expenses come. Orthodontia comes into the picture, and somebody needs braces. There's definitely expenses. The sink goes out, plumbing issues, whatever. There's always going to be expenses that pop up, but if you consistently track it, you can take the average and know what your financial freedom number is.
Yeah. And so roughly, do you remember what our financial freedom number was?
I want to say like $3,500.
$3,500 a month?
A month. $3,500 a month.
$3,500 a month for a family, right? That was just our family expenses. And we actually had our own personal expenses as well, right? And so those were probably like $1,000 to $1,500 a piece.
Yeah.
Right. So I think altogether it was about $6,500 to $7,000 a month of actual expenses that we had between our family and then us personally. Okay. And so that was our number again. And once we had that goal of knowing that's our nut, right? That means that we spend about $7,000 a month on expenses. Well, what it becomes our financial freedom number?
7,000.
Because why?
Because we need to live for free.
We want to live for free, right? Which means that no matter what happens, if we have $7,000 a month of money coming in, that means our basic necessities, our basic expenses, like food, gas, groceries, rent, whatever else is in there, is paid for. That means that Katie, if you don't work and you get sick, can you still make your payments?
Yes.
That means if I get COVID in August and I'm out for a month and I can't do anything, does everything still get paid?
True story, that happened. And yes.
Did happen, right? And so that's why it's important to understand what the number is and why it's so valuable, right? So not only does it give you the security, but it also gives you freedom. It gives you security to know that your bills are paid for, but also gives you the freedom to know that, you know what, if you do get sick or something happens where you're not able to produce new money from your job or from your W-2 or from your business, your basic needs are covered. And that's freedom, right? Because now you don't have to I didn't have to hustle back to get to work, right? I have to hustle back to get to my business because you know what? It was set up in a way that didn't need me, and our real estate obviously just did its thing. Like the tenants don't need me in order to pay rent, right? And so that's why it's so valuable, okay? And so that's what this $60K in the bank versus the $700 a month, that's what it represents. Is the difference is the $700 a month is freedom, and it's not just $700 a month, right? Because that's just what?
That's just one.
That's just one. What happens when you have 15? Again, I told you guys earlier, if you guys are paying attention, how much money do we make every single month from cash flow?
About $12,000.
About $12,000. So $700, that was the stepping stone to get to $12,000, right? And that's just a stepping stone for us to get to $30,000, right? And that's just the stepping stone for us to get to $83,000 a month, which is our goal. Just letting everybody know that's our goal, is to hit $83,000 a month in cash flow. Why is that the goal, Katie?
Why is that the goal?
Because it's an ego thing. It's just to be completely transparent, because it's $1 million of cash flow every single year, right? And I respect Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and one of the things he said in his third book, Rich Dad Guide to Investing, was that if you're able to make $1 million a year in free cash flow from your investments, that means you are a really good investor, as he called it. So I was like, I want to be a really good investor, right? I think he called it a sophisticated investor. But anyway, so that's why. And honestly, about $50,000 a month, like that's like no matter what our lifestyle, no matter how much our expenses go up, and like we can have all the fancy cars, we can have all the nice expenses, or excuse me, nice house payments, whatever it is, right? All the personal luxuries that we should have, like about $50,000 a month, you're living pretty comfortable.
Right? You can't really spend much more than that if you're
about $50,000 a month. You can pretty much have anything that you truly want, right? And then up and above that, allows us to do other things, like again, invest in more businesses. It allows us to donate more money for us to just continue to do things that we're passionate about. And just be able to say that we did it at the same time, like continue to grow our story. So that's why our goal is $82,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right.